He's gone.
Why did Jimin fly alone to London without a word? And what is he hiding there? At exactly 3:17 a.m. on July 9th, a figure cloaked entirely in black disappeared through a private boarding gate at Incheon International Airport. No press. No announcements. No farewell waves to cameras. Just silence and the unmistakable silhouette of Park Jimin. What looked like a personal trip has now erupted into a wave of speculation across social media, fueled by chilling details and haunting patterns. Why London? Why alone? Why now? Wearing a black hoodie pulled low, oversized sunglasses, and a loose leather bag slung across his shoulder, Jimin moved like a shadow, silent, calculated, untraceable. But the moment passed quickly. A grainy photo, snapped by a stunned fan, confirmed it. It was him. And just as quickly as the news spread, he was gone. There was no scheduled press coverage, no official statement, not even the usual tight-knit circle of staff visibly flanking him. This was not how K-pop stars travel. This was not how comebacks begin. Yet here we are, decoding frame-by-frame videos of Jimin slipping through Terminal 1, analyzing everything from the angle of his walk to the airline printed on his boarding pass. British Airways, 10:40 a.m. departure to London Heathrow. And just like that, theories exploded. Not just because of where he went, but how he left. Secretly, silently, stripped of the spectacle that so often defines modern idol culture. This was different. And it felt important in fact, this marks Jimin's second unexpected international trip in just under a month, following a now-confirmed recording session in New York. But this time, the secrecy has escalated to an entirely new level. No stylists were seen. No label reps were on hand. There was no visible coordination. It was him. And that's all. Now, the real question emerges. What is Jimin preparing? And why does it feel like we're not supposed to see it until it's done? According to circulating production rumors in South Korean industry forums, this isn't just another comeback. It's something else. Something darker. Something deeper. Sources tied to a known European film crew suggest that Jimin's London trip is directly connected to the filming of a short cinematic MV, one said to blend high-concept fashion, historical architecture, and emotional narrative in a way rarely attempted by any Korean artist before. But why now? And why alone? An alleged storyboard leak, reportedly spotted in the hands of a stylist assistant days before his departure, describes a surreal, stripped-back music video. One scene stands out: a barefoot Jimin walking through a fog-filled park, holding nothing but a torn envelope and a photograph he burns mid-song. It doesn't sound like entertainment. It sounds like confession. It sounds like a reckoning. The mood, reportedly, is raw. There will be no digital effects.
No spectacle. No glamour.
Just truth.
Just sound.
Just pain. A track titled "If I Don't Come Back" is rumored to be the core of this project, and it won't be edited, tuned, or polished. It's said to be recorded in one take, inside a historical studio in London previously used by Adele and Radiohead.
A piano. A mic.
A voice that's carried both nations and wounds. And lyrics that, if verified, may become some of the most haunting ever written by a K-pop artist. I left the light on in every room we never lived in. This heartbreak isn't metaphor. It's remains. It's real. It's mine. There are whispers among fans that this isn't just a comeback. It's a burial. Not of his career, but of a version of Jimin we've all come to know. The smiling, always perfect, ever-gentle public persona. The one who performed in pain, laughed when he was tired, and hid behind production design and velvet suits. What if London isn't a new beginning, but the end of that illusion? What if this is where Jimin finally stops performing? Observers point to his body language. Not dejected, but weighty. Not depressed, but driven. The kind of silent urgency that only someone carrying something personal would show. That isn't a man going on vacation. That's someone returning to the place where he intends to face something, and that something might not be fame, or fans, or even fear, but himself. there's a growing belief that Jimin is reclaiming every layer of his artistry.
No managers,
No press,
no distractions.
just him, his story, and the city of London, a city known not only for its musical heritage, but for its long, Gothic embrace of introspective art. It's no coincidence that the filming locations rumored include abandoned churches, cobblestone alleys, and forgotten museums, spaces that carry weight, silence, history. Jimin's creative direction in this phase seems to be moving away from traditional idol mechanics.
No teaser drops, no countdowns.
No stylized social media posts. Instead, a single boarding pass, a vanishing silhouette, and a wave of emotional reckoning that fans are bracing themselves to feel. And what's most haunting? The silence. Not just his silence, but the complete absence of noise from his label, his team, even his closest peers. This project, by every indication, is being carried out in solitude. There's pain here. Not the kind meant for headlines, but the kind that transforms. The kind that artists, real artists, turn into sound. That's what makes this different. Jimin is not simply returning to music. He's confronting everything that music once helped him escape. Every moment he buried for the sake of a perfect image. Every version of himself he abandoned so the world wouldn't worry. If the rumors are true, the final sequence of his upcoming video will feature a single spotlight, a piano, and no cuts. Just Jimin singing live. Every flaw, every breath, every break in his voice left in. Not a performance, a surrender. And for an artist who built a legacy on perfection, this might be the most radical act he's ever done. So the question isn't, where is Jimin going? It's, what is he leaving behind? His former image? His silence? Or perhaps the weight of an entire generation's expectations? Fans have started preparing emotionally, not just for a music drop, but a psychological shift. This could be the beginning of an entirely new era, one in which Jimin no longer pretends, where he no longer dances pain away, where he stands in it, speaks through it, sings with it. And if London is indeed the canvas for this transformation, then what we're about to witness is not a spectacle. It's a resurrection, because when he returns, if he returns, it won't be the same Jimin. It will be someone braver, someone bolder, someone who no longer performs through his pain but lets it live on record. A man who no longer hides in the dark, but turns it into song. But the deeper we look, the more disturbing the patterns become. This isn't simply about music anymore. Every step, every silence, every calculated absence signals a shift not only in Jimin's creative identity, but in the way idols are expected to reveal themselves. For over a decade, he has danced in precision, smiled in symmetry, and spoken in rehearsed kindness. But now, with each unguarded moment, he is unraveling that image piece by piece. And he's doing it in a way no one expected, by walking away from everything that once defined him. Industry insiders are reportedly uneasy. Not because Jimin is going rogue, but because they can't control the narrative anymore. No schedule, no rollout strategy, no advanced press kits or controlled interviews. Just silence. In an industry that thrives on momentum and noise, silence is dangerous. And intentional silence? It's revolutionary. What's even more unsettling is that, according to sources close to independent film crews in the UK, Jimin is deliberately keeping even local production teams in the dark about the full scope of his shoot. Permits are being filed under alternate names. Locations are revealed only hours before shooting begins. Staff are rotated constantly. All of this points to one fact. Jimin doesn't just want to surprise the world. He wants control. Over his story. Over his pain. Over the version of himself that finally speaks without filters. A leaked fragment from one supposed production script reveals a line that's already leaving fans shaken. If the silence between verses hurts you, imagine living inside it. This isn't K-pop marketing. This is a man taking the ashes of his former self and setting them to music. Quietly, fully, without compromise. Now, rumors are growing that the MV won't even be released through official channels first. Instead, an anonymous website, already being tracked by some army detectives, may serve as the initial platform. A site with no logos, no brand colors, just a blank screen, and a timer counting down to 0. If that proves true, it would mark the first time a BTS member bypasses the label's global distribution system for an official release. And that raises yet another unsettling question. Is Jimin testing the limits of his own freedom? Consider this. Only weeks ago, Jimin was reportedly seen meeting with visual artists and analog sound engineers in Seoul, some known for their anti-commercial approach to art. Then, he disappears to London, a city known for birthing rebellion in art, carrying only a duffel bag and no entourage. There is nothing accidental about this. If anything, it suggests that this project is not just personal, it's political. A statement, a defiance, the grief, the loneliness, the stillness in his departure. It isn't just sadness. It's intent, because perhaps Jimin isn't just mourning something. He's dismantling it. And for fans, this hurts in a new way. Not because he's drifting, but because he's finally letting go of the weight he was never supposed to carry alone. The smiles, the perfection, the unbreakable persona. And for the first time, it feels like we might meet the artist underneath the idol. The man beneath the choreography. The boy who once sang through tears and now sings from silence. There are already discussions online suggesting that the project could double as a documentary, or at least be followed by one. Quiet camera crews reportedly shadowed Jimin at several undisclosed locations in Seoul before his flight. One source claims hidden footage exists of Jimin speaking candidly about the pressures of maintaining a spotless public image and the emotional cost of not being allowed to mourn in real time. If that's true, we may not just be witnessing a comeback, but a confession. And if this is what Jimin is building, then we may also need to prepare ourselves, not for choreography, not for light sticks and encore stages, but for impact. An emotional one, an artistic one that does not seek applause but awareness, and his silence. Jimin may be crafting something that outlives the moment. Not just a hit song, but a turning point. For himself, for idols, for how we treat vulnerability in men and celebrities, in artists who are told to break beautifully but never bleed. London is no longer a location on a map. It's the metaphor, the cathedral, the confession box, the stormed SO. Again, the question is not, where did Jimin go? The question now is, what will return the London departure? Truth or manufactured spectacle? A call for critical reflection. Jimin's recent unannounced departure to London continues to generate a storm of speculation. But amid the emotional responses and virality of scattered visual clues, an urgent question arises. How much of what we believe is truly happening, and how much is a result of collective projection, media manipulation, or orchestrated illusion? As this narrative unfolds across digital platforms, it becomes imperative to not merely follow, but to interrogate. The atmosphere surrounding Jimin's solo trip is undeniably heavy, marked by calculated silence and striking imagery. But does this silence serve as artistic expression, or is it a strategy? If Jimin indeed flew in secrecy to execute a deeply personal and creative mission, why are so many breadcrumbs left deliberately exposed? Who benefits from this narrative being picked up and disseminated across TikTok, Twitter, YouTube, and fan-operated data channels? Is this authenticity? Or is it architecture? The viral spread of a shadowed image at Incheon, the alleged boarding pass, the rumor of a cinematic MV set in London's Gothic landscapes, these have all been elevated to near mythical proportions. But at what point does speculation become fabrication? At what point does passion blur into projection? And more critically, why are we so ready to believe? We must ask, are we responding to Jimin's absence, or to the carefully constructed aesthetic of his disappearance? The details shared, from torn envelopes to whispered lyrics about heartbreak and solitude, may indeed stem from creative leaks. But how many of these leaks were organic? How many were seeded? When narratives begin circulating from vague social media posts, unverified stylist sightings, and anonymous industry sources, skepticism is not optional, it is necessary. We are not merely observers in this scenario. We are participants in its construction. Every click, every retweet, every repost amplifies a version of reality that might never have been real in the first place. Let us reflect, then, with discipline and detachment. Do we truly know anything? Or are we entangled in a collective illusion born from fragmented data and emotional investment? It is uncomfortable to question the sincerity of an artist whose vulnerability has long connected so deeply with his audience. Yet such questioning is essential. It is precisely because Jimin is beloved, because his silence resonates, because his image holds emotional gravity, that we must be especially cautious of manipulation, intentional or otherwise. Consider the timing. This event arrives during a global saturation of content and demand for engagement. With algorithms favoring emotional intensity, controversial speculation, and mystery, the incentives for curating dramatic narratives are immense. Could this be a masterclass in media orchestration, veiled as artistic retreat? Even the language around the event, a silhouette disappearing, barefoot in the fog, lyrics etched in grief, feels poetically deliberate. Who wrote this story, truly? Was it Jimin himself? Was it his creative team? Was it the fandom? Or was it a digital echo chamber that took a single blurry photo and built a monument of meaning around it? We must, with urgency, ask ourselves, are we consuming truth or theater? And if it is theater, are we the audience or the product? This conversation extends beyond Jimin. It confronts the mechanisms of digital celebrity, the fragile line between intimacy and illusion, and the manner in which platforms, both official and fan-made, blur fact with interpretation until both become indistinguishable. As we navigate this unfolding phenomenon, the lines between documentation and dramatization have all but dissolved. It is also worth emphasizing that much of the so-called evidence being referenced originates from unverifiable media. Personal TikTok testimonies, Twitter threads, speculative YouTube breakdowns, and heavily edited fan-made visuals. These sources, while powerful in shaping perception, are not inherently credible. Their viral potential lies not in factual integrity, but in emotional resonance. Is it not time to pause and interrogate this structure? Why are we willing to accept anonymous statements as fact? Why do emotional narratives hold more weight than verifiable data? And most crucially, who is responsible if this all turns out to be misdirection? We urge readers to resist blind engagement. Every headline, every dramatic post, every artistic theory must be subjected to the same rigorous standards we would apply to any serious journalistic investigation. Demand sources, verify timelines, question motives. Because without skepticism, we are no longer witnessing a story. We are feeding one in an age where content is currency. The emotional investment of a global audience is a highly valuable asset. Jimin's silence, whether intentional or circumstantial, has been commodified. And while that silence may be real, the interpretation of it is not neutral. So again, let us ask, are we being moved by art or manipulated by architecture? Is this disappearance a personal journey or a carefully choreographed performance? Is Jimin speaking through silence? Or are we simply filling in the void with our own projections? Let these questions remain unresolved for now. Not because the truth is inaccessible, but because it is still forming. As this situation develops further, we urge the public not to turn away, but to look deeper. Think not just about what you see, but why you're seeing it, who wants you to see it, and what happens when you do. In a world so eager to feel something, the greatest danger lies not in fiction, but in our refusal to recognize it as such. And so we conclude with one final provocation. What if none of this was ever about a comeback? What if it was about testing whether we can still tell the difference? Stay alert. Stay reflective. Truth deserves more than belief. It deserves inquiry. If we are to continue this discussion with integrity, it must be underlined. The boundary between performance and reality has never been thinner. In Jimin's case, This threshold may have already been crossed. The question now is not merely whether he flew to London for an artistic project, but whether the narrative surrounding this departure is being consumed as fact without question. The emotional magnetism of the visuals, Jimin in black, vanishing at dawn, clutching a single bag, has mesmerized millions. But we must ask ourselves, have we been emotionally manipulated by a carefully planted sequence of events? Was this a spontaneous decision by an artist reclaiming his voice, or a highly engineered media experiment to assess the responsiveness of a digital generation craving unscripted truth? It is a dangerous assumption to believe every quiet act is genuine. Silence can be staged. Absence can be choreographed. Ambiguity can be monetized. Yet the emotional stakes are undeniable. Fans are not just observing Jimin's journey. They are investing their own narratives into his. But is that investment clouding our ability to perceive with objectivity? Let's reflect on the nature of the sources feeding the story. Twitter posts without attribution. TikTok sightings with no timestamps. YouTube conspiracy videos relying on voiceovers and blurry images. Are these credible? Are they vetted? Or are they fragments stitched together to form a compelling illusion? Moreover, why have major media outlets remained silent? Why have no official press channels validated the details being passed around so widely? Could this be an intentional vacuum, crafted to allow speculation to flourish unchecked? And if so, who gains? We must confront the possibility that this unfolding spectacle, with all its emotional resonance and symbolic weight, is not a documentation of truth, but a case study in mass perception. A real-time demonstration of how belief can be manufactured when narrative control is surrendered to algorithms and emotional contagion. This does not negate the possibility that Jimin is indeed crafting something raw and personal, but it forces us to admit that we cannot, with certainty, separate his intention from the interpretation forced upon it. What is truth when it is built from pixels, impressions, and assumptions? This leads us to a more unsettling conclusion. Perhaps the story is not being told by Jimin at all. Perhaps it is being told by us, those watching, sharing, assuming, hoping. We are, in effect, co-authors of this mystery.